Welcome back, everybody. It's the Fantasy Pros Dynasty Fantasy Football Podcast brought to you by Reality Sports Online. I'm your host, Scott Bogman. Follow me on the Twitter at Bogman Sports. And today on the show, we're going to be doing 5 breakout players for myself, Pat Fitzmaurice, and John McGlynn, who is a guest on the show today. Fitzy, how was your weekend? How did everything go for you? At Fitz_FF on the Twitter to follow him. Are you enjoying the summer and this rancid heat wave that everyone is having right now?
Yeah, I'm enjoying the summer, but not enough, Boggs. Hopefully most people are catching this via podcast and not via video, because look at me, for those who are watching on video, I'm as white as Casper the Ghost right now. And I could blame it on poor lighting, but I've got all these great studio lights that Fantasy Pros hooked me up with. I'm going to blame it on my bosses for working me too hard when I should be across the street at the golf course working on my short game. So too much work, not enough play. What are you
Makes Pat a sad boy? Is that what it is?
Makes Pat a surly boy.
Well, look, I just hope my power stays on. Because I'm in Texas and they've warned us about rolling blackouts in this state with the grid. And a couple of years ago, I wasn't here, but when the power went out in the winter, they said, well, we're built for the summer. That was the thing. And now they're warning us about potential outages. It hasn't happened today or yesterday, but it was like 104 yesterday here, which is like, I'm like, did I bring Arizona with me? What is happening right now? John joining us here at John McGlynn 75. You can catch him on his podcast, the Commissioner Evaluation Pod. How you doing, man? How's your summer been?
It's been nice for me. My daughter's in lacrosse, so we've been kind of all over the place. My wife's on the way home from New Jersey right now. We just had a family cruise last week. We went to the Bahamas and stuff, so it's been nice. I'm half Greek and half Irish, so I get some tan skin when I go out, but the Caribbean vacation kind of helped with that. But everything was great. Like I said, she's on the way home from New Jersey right now. She's in Ohio at that Christmas Story house right now, about 5 hours away from
nice.
home.
Yeah.
They see the Liberty Bell and all the other stuff on the way back home. But we've been to 43 states already in America with our kids traveling sports, seeing the world, and there's no better place in America to kind of do that stuff. So
I love it. John is rested. He's the opposite of Fitz. He's tanned up. He's had the vacations. He's ready to rock and roll.
Well,
so
Boggs, if I can interject though, I mean, John is like the best commissioner, one of the best commissioners out there. I mean, Scott Fish, I guess, wears the crown, but John is right up there. And John had just gotten back from his vacation when he was hosting 3 live drafts in Chicago for the Scott Fish Bowl. So he's not too rested up because he came back and had to get right at it. And, he was just a whirling dervish as far as running those drafts, and he did a great job of it. So my hat's off to him for that.
Thank you. I do nothing but home leagues, and that's kind of what I do is do home leagues. So it was right up my alley. The Fishbowl was actually my only league that was not a home league. So now it is a home league. So every one of my leagues is a home league now. I have tons of people in there. It's a great time. I had a blast. Thanks, Fitz, for coming out and kicking it off for us.
That is
my
awesome.
pleasure.
I'm in, thank you to Fitz for getting me in the Scott Fish Bowl. I am in it for the first time this year and having a great time in my draft so far. It's moving a little slower than some of the other drafts, but we're getting there, and I like my start so far. So I'm sure we'll have, somewhere we'll be going over our Scott Fish team at some point for sure. So, but today, like I said, we're going to be talking about breakouts in this episode, and the way we're going to do it is we're going to have a captain obvious pick from each of us. Then we're going to have 2 that are less obvious, but some people are saying that maybe there's a breakout here. Maybe some people aren't. They're just not as heavily talked about as the first 3. 2 of those for everybody. And then 2 deep shots. 2 guys that are, in a basic draft, you're basically going to have these guys be free. So they're going to be deeper shots that you can take and guys that could potentially break out this season. But before we dive into all the action here, let me tell you about a couple things we got. We have a giveaway again for a Treylon Burks autographed jersey we're doing right now. All you need to do is subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/fantasypros. Take a screenshot, submit it to fantasypros.com/dynasty-contest. That's fantasypros.com/dynasty-contest, and you are entered in it to win it. Do it as soon as possible, as this contest ends at the end of this month. youtube.com/fantasypros. While you're there, this podcast is also on our YouTube channel, along with all our other podcasts, quick hitting videos, live streams, anything on Fantasy Pros. Subscribe if you like our content, because it really helps us out. Click the bell to get notified of any of our latest pods so you don't miss out on any of the action. Like I said, youtube.com/FantasyPros. If you could check that out, that would be awesome for us. All right, John, you are the guest. We're going to give you the first option here. Who is your obvious breakout player, and why do you like that guy?
My captain obvious choice for a player who I believe will have a massive breakout this year is T. Higgins. Most people think that T. Higgins broke out last year, but out of the 14 fantasy relevant weeks that he played in, and we all care about, T had a wide receiver 7, a 6, a 5, 2 wide receiver 4s, 4 wide receiver 3s, wide receiver 2 and 1, and 3 wide receiver 1 weeks, which all happened in week 12 or later. The same post 12 games that were the only ones that Higgins had any of his 100-yard plus receiving games. This year, I'm fairly confident that Higgins will finish well ahead of the Cheetah, Tyreek Hill, and a new and not explosive offense. He's going to finish in front of Deebo Samuel, who's crying about running the ball, which might have an impact on his fantasy value. And I see Higgins finishing ahead of Mike Evans, Keenan Allen, A.J. Brown. In Dynasty, he's still only 23 years old. He's got an actual chance to outscore his own superstar teammate, Jamar Chase. And his ADP, his average draft position, is in late round 2 or early round 3, where you have to spend a top 5 pick to get Chase. So that's why I think he's the obvious pick for a breakout.
And he is on ECR in terms of Dynasty right now. He is 8. He is behind some of the guys you mentioned, A.J. Brown, Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs. And he's just ahead of Deebo, ahead of Waddle, ahead of Tyreek Hill, just the youth there. I think people don't realize because Chase came in, it was so explosive last year, and Higgins was the veteran compared to him. Higgins still very, very young, Fitz. Are you on this train too? Do you like Higgins to break out even more this season?
I am, Boggs, and you and I were talking before the show about how you had touted him on a Discord stages last night to someone who was debating between keepers and what was it, Higgins
and Mooney. And Mooney was in the 12th. Higgins was in the 6th. But, I love Mooney. But Higgins he is a wide receiver 1. He has that build. And if he was in Atlanta, maybe not with Mariota and all that stuff, but if he was somewhere where he could be a true only guy, he would be up in that top 5, I think, with, these other guys, the A.J. Browns and Justin Jeffersons. He would probably be right behind Chase and Jefferson, to be honest with you. So to knock him down because Chase is there is just, I don't think it's the right mindset. He's not a wide receiver 2. He's another wide receiver 1 with another wide receiver 1.
I get that Mooney's the only show in town over there, but Higgins is still going to blow him out of the water, redraft and in Dynasty, especially Dynasty, which we're talking about here. It's not even, it's a horse racing a mule at that point in time.
Yeah. And Boggs, you mentioned like the Chase thing shouldn't really deter people on Higgins because this is more like a Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne type of thing where there is enough room for both guys to eat. And it's going to be that explosive an offense, I think, with Burrow and the much improved offensive line. And Higgins is going to be tied to Burrow and this offense for this year and another 3 years minimum beyond that. So it's a really good outlook for him for Dynasty.
My hope as a Steelers fan is that all these guys play too good to re-sign with the Bengals. That's what I want. I want them out of my division. That is for sure. Or realignment. That's okay too. But I love the hatred that the Steelers and Bengals have. So it's a fun one. Fitzy, who's your captain obvious selection for a breakout in 2022?
All right. So let's stay in the same division and let's stay with the wide receiver. And it's Rashod Bateman. And I don't like to tout guys just basically only on where they are with the depth charts and, look at all these vacant targets with Marquise Brown being dealt to the Cardinals. Yes, Bateman does seem poised for a big boost in targets after his sort of disappointing rookie year where he dealt with the groin injury early and then like Lamar Jackson. After Bateman got healthy, Lamar Jackson missed some time. But I wouldn't base the breakout prediction just on the situation. I think there's the talent to back it up. He was a first round pick and I think he really has no flaws in his game. He's not like, a 10 out of 10 in every category, but he really doesn't have any weaknesses to his game. He's like a good route runner, decent size, pretty good speed, good after the catch, really good hands, feisty uncontested catches, and he has played both inside and outside at Minnesota. I know PJ Fleck, their coach, kind of believes like the top receiver
Row the
should
boat.
always be, row the boat. PJ believes the top receiver should always be the slot guy. So if he's got a really good receiver, he's going to put that guy in the slot. He put Bateman in the slot after Tyler Johnson left the program. And like, I don't think Bateman's best spot is the slot, but he can do it. He's going to, he'll take some snaps there. So that versatility is kind of nice. Just a lot going for this guy, and he has a massive opportunity in 2022.
So I have a question for you. We were playing this game on ITL earlier. It's a fun one. Can you give me your projections? If you're projecting a breakout for Bateman, what would it look like? Just give me catches, yards, scores. What does that look like in a Baltimore offense? I'll tell you what Fantasy Pros projections are after that. So this should be a fun experiment here.
Yeah, just off the top of my head, I would say like 85 catches, maybe 1,090 yards, and 8 touchdowns.
So the projections are 73, 929, and 5. So you're not asking for, that's like you're asking for 2 games that are a little bit better, where he scores a couple touchdowns and a couple extra receptions and yards there. So I'm with that one. And Bateman becoming a number 1 could be huge. I mean, I think Mark Andrews is still the number 1 target receiver in this offense, but we saw, with the demise of the Baltimore defense last year, John, they passed the ball way more than they wanted to. And Marquise Brown actually put up some decent numbers. What do you think of Bateman this year and moving forward?
He was number 1 in efficiency as far as slot. I mean, it says a lot. I think the stats you guys had mentioned are pretty much spot on. It's not. They passed way too much last year. They didn't want to. They had no running backs. The whole team got hurt, including Lamar Jackson. So it's going to be a situation where the offense will come down to earth a little bit more. It won't be as much passing. Probably, as we'll talk about later, about 380 to 400 passes, probably at the most for that offense. But I mean, Bateman is a quality receiver, so it's somebody that I'd like to have, definitely as my wide receiver 2, possibly, my wide receiver 3, on any fantasy, on any dynasty roster I have right now.
Yeah, I like Bateman a lot. Once again, we're touting the AFC North and not the Steelers here, so I don't like that. But, Bateman is definitely going to be a stud, and I'm excited to see what he has this year for sure. For my breakout here, Captain Obvious, which I feel like he's getting a little divisive in the community here, but I love Javonte Williams, and I think he's absolutely going to take over this season for Denver. And I looked at just the games last year. I know a lot of people, his ECR, I believe, went down from like for 2022 only, not for Dynasty, but I think it went from 8 to 12 after Melvin Gordon re-signed there. And I thought that was a little funny. Not that Melvin Gordon isn't good. Melvin Gordon is still a very good back and can be used like he was last season. But they let Melvin Gordon sit on the pile for 2 months before they re-signed him. Any team could have come along and re-signed Melvin Gordon, and he would have been gone and out of the system. So I think Denver's plan is going to be to give the rock to Javonte Williams a little bit more. It's concerning because he was never the number 1, carrying the load at North Carolina. He was there with Michael Carter. Last year, he was in Denver with Melvin Gordon. So this is a first for him if he's going to get an expanded role. But I went back and I looked, and last season, he had, in the games that he had, over 15 touches. So if he's going to see that expanded role that I predict, because Melvin Gordon, was left to go for so long, they kind of begrudgingly brought him back, it felt like. He averaged 18.88 points per game in PPR, which would be 4th. He also had 4 touchdowns over those 5 games. That was only 5 games where he had 15 or more, or more than 15 touches, so 16 or more. So he ended up 4th in points per game. That would have been good enough for 4th. So for me, with a better offense, a better quarterback making this offense really open up, we already saw how elusive. I mean, I think he would might have been number 1 in PFF elusive rating. I know he had an absurd amount of missed tackles compared to everybody else, with the limited amount of carries that Javonte Williams had last season. So I just think that everything adds up for a big breakout for Javonte. Not a surprise. A lot of people are saying this. A lot of people think Melvin Gordon comes in and mucks this up a little bit. What side of the fence are you on, Pat? Are you on the Javonte is going to break outside, or I'm a little cautious because they did bring back Melvin Gordon, who is an experienced running back?
Pretty squarely on the fence, Boggs, but I love hearing you talk about the breakout possibility since I just took him in the 4th round of the Scott Fish Bowl. And I felt like pretty good value in the middle of the 4th round. And if he does continue to split work pretty evenly with Melvin Gordon, I'm still not going to regret the pick. I think he'll, he won't smash, but it'll still be worthwhile, I think. And, if the Broncos do tweak the sliders on usage a little bit and, boost Javonte's percentage of carries and lower Melvin Gordon's role a little bit, then yeah, because I don't think there's any doubting the talent, just the burst this guy has for a bigger back and just what he does on contact, man. I mean, some plays from a season just get etched in your brain. And one from 2021 for me is the game against the Ravens where Javonte, I think it was a run wide left. Marlon Humphrey tries to tackle him and just goes along for the ride. And it was like, there was a fly on Javonte's shoulder. Like Marlon Humphrey just wasn't even there. He's running with a full body on him. Like Marlon Humphrey is
hanging off of him. Yeah.
Draped over him like a mink stole and just didn't even slow him down. Must have gone 10 yards with Marlon Humphrey like that. So, no question about the talent. And if you're a Javonte Williams investor, your hope is definitely that they ramp him up and start to ease back Gordon. I don't think you're going to see anything like a Dalvin Cook, Alexander Madison split,
You're right.
but hopefully you start to see something other than a true 50-50.
I mean, 16 touches a game. I think that's the marker that spiked Javonte last season, John. So do you think that is a reasonable expectation for Williams this year, is 16 touches or more per game? Or do you think I kind of like Melvin Gordon still?
I don't like Melvin Gordon, and I got Javonte Williams on almost every one of my dynasty teams, so I want Javonte Williams. I could sit here and tell you he's going to be running back 1, and it would be awesome to talk myself into that, but I think he's going to be a mid running back 2, unfortunately, this year. It's just meddling to have another running back. I mean, Gordon's nothing's fantastic, but he is just a thorn in the side of Javonte Williams, and it's, I could just see him, like John Hogue was on my show a couple weeks ago, and he says, the Javonte Williams would have these massive plays. He had 6, what the NFL calls long breakout runs. He'd do all the work all the way to the goal line, and they bring in Gordon to come, vulture the touchdowns. And it's like, I think Javonte is going to get a couple more goal line carries this year. But I mean, his bread and butter will probably be more in the passing game and the receiving game. So I just hope that he gets somewhere around 50 receptions, probably, let's say 400 yards and a couple, maybe 3 or 4 touchdowns to go along with his rushing yards that are going to be cut in half. So I think that I'm expecting him to be a high end running back 2, hopefully a low end running back 1. And that's kind of where I'm realistic at. And if I expect anything more, I'm just kind of fooling myself. So I'm hoping for that, but I'm expecting a mid running back 2 year this year for Javonte.
16 touches a game over 17 games is 272. No. So that number seems like a lot, and he probably won't get to 16 every game. But I think if you're getting it most games, then he's up in that category. Like I said, if he's getting more carries, also he has more shots at breaking one for a touchdown. And he scored, I think it was in 3 of those 5 games, he scored touchdowns. One of them he scored twice. But you just, you put the ball in his hands more, and he's going to do great things. So I'm all in. John, who is your first less obvious player that you think will break out this season?
The player I feel is about to explode this year is Juju Smith-Schuster. Yes, ooh. I know this is Dynasty and Juju is in a 1-year contract, but I feel that this is the beginning of a long love story between Patrick Mahomes and Juju Smith-Schuster. The loss of Tyreek Hill left a void in this offense that can only be filled with a proven player like Juju, who already has a top 12 and top 24 seasons in the books. Injuries and the creature from the black and gold pocket, also known as Ben Roethlisberger, that threw the ball 6 feet from the line of scrimmage, really tarnished the image of what was once a vital piece of high-functioning NFL offense in the Steelers. We all know that Sky Moore was drafted in the 2nd round, and the Chiefs also brought in the drag racer decoy known as MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. But this offense will flow through Travis Kelce and then through Juju Smith-Schuster. I think this was a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Hey, just sign a 1-year deal now. And when Patrick and Juju have a Cooper Cup type breakout season, we'll lock these guys into a long-term deal to be the face of the franchise for the Chiefs.
We're about to go do karate in the garage, John. So I've been on Juju this whole offseason. Pat knows it. I've been absurdly over the top about Juju. I think I have him ranked at 19. No one has him even close to that high. And Fitzy, what do you think about Juju? I mean, we have talked about him ad nauseum, but this is just another piece adding up for Juju here. And, I love it. 41 is his ECR in Dynasty right now. 41. That's crazy.
Yeah, so I have liked him ever since he came out of USC. Loved him. Obviously, great start to his career. And then the last couple of years have been rough with injuries and Ben Roethlisberger's decay. And, I just had Joe Dolan on my podcast. And, he and the other fantasy points guys are down on Juju. They're way below ADP or ECR on him. And one of the points Joe brought up was it's kind of a follow the money thing. Why did Juju return to the Steelers on such a cheap 1-year deal? Why did he, not get more money in free agency this year from, Christian Kirk drove away from free agency in a Brinks truck, and Juju with a relatively modest deal. Why is that? And obviously there are other possible targets here who could,
sure.
Kelsey is, you mentioned with Bateman in Baltimore that Andrews is probably still the top guy there. Kelsey's still the top guy in Kansas City. If I did have to bet who's going to finish second to Kelsey in catches on that team, I would bet Juju. I'm a little cautious. I'm not going all in on him in Dynasty. I'm not as far as fielding offers, putting together offers for him, I'm being a little careful. I'm not overpaying for him, but I don't have him on any Dynasty rosters right. I take that back. I have him on one.
You have a ticket to the hype train, but you're not getting on it yet.
Yeah,
I feel like that's it. You bought the ticket.
Kind of it, man.
You're ready for it to go, but you're like, should I stay here or should I get on this train? You're still deciding it.
Yeah, cautiously optimistic, though. I'm just happy that he is uncoupled from Roethlisberger. I'm really happy. Yeah.
Look, I don't blame you for that, even as a Steelers fan.
I have a trade I just made 2 days ago. It was I traded CEH and Myles Gaskin to get Juju in a dynasty.
Oh, good Lord. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like that.
Oh, man. Yeah. No brainer. God, if I could get something like that, then I would get excited about Juju.
Listen, I send a lot of bad offers out all the time. So every once in a while I get lucky and pull something in.
Oh, God, I hate rejecting bad offers. Look, we're going to get to Fitz's next breakout pick here. But before we do, I got to tell you guys about Reality Sports Online. And by now, most of you have probably heard of Reality Sports Online, the powerful fantasy sports platform where owners get to build and manage their fantasy team like an NFL general manager. But the question is, have you tried it? It's time to go see what all the buzz in the Dynasty community is about. Free agency, multi-year contracts, rookie draft, multi-team trades, franchise tags, contract extensions, first-round rookie options, automated contract and salary cap functionality, and much, much more. Think it sounds complicated? It is not. The best thing about Reality Sports Online Fantasy Front Office is that it doesn't take any more time than a standard league. It just requires more strategy. Think you're among the fantasy elite? Well, this is the platform to test your mettle. Still not sure? You can test out your general manager skills for free, FREE, in a mock free agency auction. If you like what you see, use the promo code FantasyPros to receive a 10% discount on your team or league today. Fantasy just got real at realitysportsonline.com. Fitzy, you are up for your second, less obvious breakout candidate. Who is it going to be?
Rhamondre Stevenson. Got really, became infatuated with him when he wrecked Florida. I think it was the Orange Bowl. Was that his last game, Boggs?
That sounds right.
After kind of a star-crossed career, I know he was suspended for a while for marijuana use, I think it was. Anyway, so
how dare he?
Exactly. His first year, kind of a star-crossed beginning for him in New England with losing a fumble right off the bat in his first game. So he
right immediately into the doghouse.
Healthy scratch in his next 3 games. But then he slowly worked his way back into Bill Belichick's good graces, and over his last 11 regular season games averaged 12 carries a game. So that's pretty good usage for Belichick, who's been historically wary, I think, of rookie running backs, it's safe to say. So 231 pounds, nifty feet, catches, passes. And I just mentioned Joe Dolan being on my podcast this week. And Joe is doing a podcast series talking to various beat writers. And he was talking to Andrew Callahan of the Boston Herald. And Callahan predicted that Stevenson would overtake Damian Harris this year as the Patriots' lead guy. So if you've got a beat writer from a major newspaper covering the Patriots calling his shot on that, that definitely piques my interest.
It fans the flames, that's for sure. John, what do you think about Rhamondre Stevenson? My thing with running backs in New England is that I generally don't want any of them because I just despise what Belichick has done with his position over the years, splitting it up. You remember Mike Gillislee only scoring touchdowns so nobody else could score touchdowns? Like, you just never know. I like Damian Harris coming out of Bama too. Stevenson was very good at Oklahoma. I mean, annoyingly, as a Texas fan, I used to watch him, and he was outstanding there. So I do like the player. I like the team and situation less. What do you think about the potential for Stevenson to break out this year?
Rhamondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson are my 2 favorite running backs in the league, but I had this argument with somebody, and it made sense. It's one of those kind of slap in the face moments where you realize that you were wrong, where I had Stevenson. I'm like, he could do everything. He could block. He can catch. He can run. He's a goal line back. He's big. Everything about the guy is great. He could take over New England's offense all by himself. He could be everything. And somebody said, but the Patriots just don't do that. And I'm like, okay, thanks for ruining my life, but that's I wanted Stevenson to be everything, and I just don't think that in New England there's ever going to be anybody who does anything. There's been the LeGarrette Blount goal line backs. There's been all kind of great people who do great things, but there's never everybody that does everything. There's always a guy who does this and a guy who does that and a guy who does that, but never somebody who does everything. And I just think Rhamondre Stevenson's in for 150 to 170 rushes, probably maybe 20 to 30 catches, and he'll just be Rhamondre Stevenson forever, minus a fumble here and there, which everybody's going to happen. I'm sorry that the Patriots kind of punish guys a little more than the rest of the league, but if he doesn't fumble, I still see him as a mid wide receiver. I mean, a mid running back like 3, and that's as far as he's going to be, I think, in my book, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think if you
Corey Dillon, Boggs. Corey Dillon.
That's the last one.
That's my one historical exception for Belichick. Hopefully it can be Corey Dillon.
And they probably had to, convince Corey Dillon that he was going to get that role when he signed there too. Right. So, that's, you could be right. Rhamondre Stevenson breaking out, like John said, like I said, is 100% within the realm of possibilities. It could definitely happen. He could overtake Damian Harris. I don't expect surprising huge fantasy seasons out of any non-quarterback or tight end in New England often. So my first less obvious candidate is Marquise Brown, now with the Arizona Cardinals. And Marquise Brown has gotten better every single year in the NFL. 2019, he was 44th among wide receivers in points. 2020, he was 36th. Last season, he was 23rd. It's been 48th, 47th, and 26th in points per game, but every single year. And remember, we're going to an offense. And surprisingly, when I was trying to do check marks for why Marquise Brown is going to get better, I went, well, they have to pass more in Arizona than they did in Baltimore last season, but they didn't. Baltimore actually threw more than Arizona last season because they were down, because that secondary got so beat up in Baltimore last year. They had to play point for point. They had to play catch up at the end of the year. And you see, it didn't work very well for them. Well, Arizona's been doing this for years. DeAndre Hopkins is on a 6-game suspension. Rondale Moore is young. I still like Zach Ertz, but don't forget Kyler Murray and Marquise Brown were huge together at Oklahoma. The 1 year that they played together, 75 catches, 1,318 yards, and 10 touchdowns from Marquise Brown. Now that he's a pro, now that he's in this wide system where you're going to have to worry about Rondale Moore, you're going to have to worry about other guys. The thing that makes Marquise Brown is manning him up, putting him one-on-one on someone. He snaps a route off like nobody's business. In Baltimore, especially with Lamar and them limiting his passing, at least I feel like they've limited his passing too much in his career. I think he can throw the ball deeper than he has. I think he's going to have a much deeper ADOT. I think he's going to make some huge plays for this Cardinals team. And I think he is going to have a true breakout. I have him as a kind of mid-tierish wide receiver 2 moving forward. Fitz, are you with me on Marquise on Hollywood, or are you just not interested after seeing what he's done in Baltimore?
I have warmed to Hollywood somewhat. I guess my comp for him is sort of Deshaun Jackson, which is good and bad in a way, because I think he's like capable of, like really big games or whatever. I think I've always had this bias toward bigger wide receivers, team big wide receiver. I've kind of gotten off that a little bit in recent years. And, people who know what a Rondale Moore advocate I've been, it might call me a hypocrite there.
AB should have changed everyone's mind on that.
True, AB. And like Rondale Moore's kind of a different cat, though. He squats like 800 pounds or whatever. The guy's like, built like a fire hydrant, whereas
like MJD at wide receiver.
Yeah. Whereas Hollywood is built more like my, skinny 15-year-old son. And I just feel like there might be a little more injury risk there, even though, we haven't seen him like really miss significant time in his career so far. But I just don't know if he's going to be, as a higher ADOT guy, a guy who's more of a downfield guy. Like, I don't think he's going to be a consistent week in, week out producer. I think he's going to be one of those guys you maybe want on your best ball team where you don't have to pick the weeks where he's going to go off. But definitely more interested this year now that he's back with Kyler again. Like, I'm buying into the the shower narrative, the college shower narrative that these two former Oklahoma teammates are gonna light it up again.
John, Fantasy Pros projections on Marquise: 75.7 catches, 941.9 yards, and 5.8 touchdowns. Is that fair? You think that's low? And where are you at on Marquise moving forward?
It's right on target. I'm happy with that. I think he's a mid wide receiver too. That's about where again, like Fitz said, I think he's a bit more of a best ball player than a weekly, a guy you're going to depend on all the time. He's going to have some monster weeks, especially the first half of the season, monster weeks. But who knows what's going to happen when the whole team's together again, or who's going to get all targets, or what's going on. But the first half of the season, there's going to be some huge weeks. I mean, he may be a weekly winner for you. 5 of the first 8 weeks of the season. So it's somebody I would like to have on my team. But again, at the size he is, 5'9", 160, 165, something like that. I forgot what exactly he weighs, but
skinny. Yeah,
that is. I mean, I'm like 3 of that guy.
Samesies for sure. All right, John, who's your second guy? Who is the next guy that's going to break out here?
My less obvious, another less obvious one is Trevor Lawrence. He's in a situation where he doesn't really have anything great around him, but almost every aspect of his offense has been upgraded. Doug Peterson is one of those upgrade pieces, as he's a coach we all know who loves to throw the ball. Lawrence threw the ball over 600 times last year, but most of those passes were while he was running for his life. So his quality of throws suffered a lot. I'm willing to bet that the Jaguars will still throw the ball close to 600 times this year, but this time it'll be the targets that are not running into each other in the middle of the field. A new competent coach, a healthy Travis Etienne, upgraded wide receiver with Christian Kirk and Zay Jones, underrated Evan Ingram, a few new offensive line improvements. They'll make the Jaguars a slightly better team, but the strides Trevor Lawrence will make in real life and especially in fantasy football will be tremendous. As a dynasty player, especially in any kind of 2 quarterback or super flex format, the clock is ticking on the buy low window for Lawrence. Like I said, look for around 600 attempts with a lot more quality completions, a significant uptick in yards and touchdowns, a big decrease in interceptions. And once that dynasty stock starts going up again, there won't be another buy window on Trevor Lawrence. So you have to get sunshine now or you're never getting him at all.
Yeah, Fitz, we've talked about this before. Trevor Lawrence in this pedigree of, it was Trevor Lawrence was the best prospect since Andrew Luck, who was the best prospect since Peyton Manning, who was the best prospect since John Elway. Like he fits in that line coming out of college, and specifically what he did in college, taking Clemson to a national title and winning it. And we didn't see any of that magic last year. Now, I think most other people have blamed Urban Meyer fairly wholly and completely for this. Trevor he's got a share of the blame for sure. He was not nearly as good as anybody thought, but I mean, everything in Jacksonville was trash last year. So I think it's addition by subtraction, getting rid of Urban Meyer. You put any coach in there, I think he's going to get better. But Doug Peterson has proven, made Carson Wentz look great, took Nick Foles to the Super Bowl and won it with them. So we should see significant improvement on Trevor Lawrence, correct?
I think so. And we saw John made a great point with Doug Peterson, who coaxed a near MVP season out of Carson Wentz in his second year in the league. And Wentz probably was the front runner for MVP before he tore his ACL against the Rams late in the season. And, I think he missed 3 games. Had he not missed those 3, he probably, gets across the tape as the winner in the MVP race. And Doug Peterson got to the Super Bowl and won it with Nick Foles as his quarterback. So, if there's someone to rehabilitate a quarterback who needs rehabilitation after a year with Urban Meyer, Peterson is a really good candidate. And, man, for all his struggles last year, like Lawrence, like he just every once in, every half a dozen times in every game, he would just like rip a throw where you'd be like, oh, yeah, there's the Clemson Trevor Lawrence. So, I have no doubt it's there. I'm not too worried. I'm still confidently buying on him in Dynasty.
I think the thing a lot of people forget about Trevor Lawrence is his rushing ability. It was pretty clear. Urban Meyer completely forgot about it last year. Or they didn't want him running because, he's the franchise and all that stuff. But that's garbage. Like, let this guy go out and play his way. If he's gonna make it, he's gonna have to do it his way, So I think there's just so much more upside. I don't even know what the ceiling on Trevor Lawrence is. I know if he puts up another dud year with Doug Peterson, a lot of people are going to be mad. I know that. So here's hoping that he has his big breakout this year. Who's your second breakout player here, Fitz? You're less obvious than your captain obvious one.
Yeah, I'll go with Kadarius Toney, and I'll throw in the caveat that it's got to be with good health. Like, I have no doubt he's going to break out this year if he has good health. And, we have talked about this ad nauseum, Boggs, what we saw.
This is your guy. You're leading the Kadarius Toney train.
I was the conductor. So smitten based on weeks 4 and 5 last year when he had those good games against the Saints and Cowboys. 6 catches, 78 yards against the Saints, 10 catches, 189 against the Cowboys. But, only 10 games last year, and it was all these different injuries, ankle, quad, oblique, shoulder, COVID, had missed time in training camp with a hamstring injury. The fear here and what could derail his career and prevent a breakout is that he's another Percy Harvin. Kind of used in the same type of role as this versatile Swiss Army knife.
Tavon Austin, Paris Campbell. Like, there's been many of these guys. Yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of interesting. Like, he's this low average depth of target guy, 5.9 yards average depth of target as a rookie, 6.6 throughout his college career. So he's real gadgety like Percy Harvin. And like he does, I think he drew targets on the 7th highest percentage of his routes last year. So they want to get this guy the ball on these short little, you just wonder, like, if that kind of exposes him, those kind of receptions where he's getting the ball and there are tacklers around. Like, there's traffic. There are a lot of guys who can get shots at him. He's a slippery cat, but, I just wonder if he can maintain the health. If he can, I'm very optimistic we see him break out in 2022.
John, Kadarius Toney, not only athletic, but when you watch him, the number one thing is motor. Like, he's always trying to get that extra yard, trying to break that tackle, trying to stiff arm. He's not a step out of bounds guy. He's not that guy at all, which could be concerning given his shorter stature. But everything is there for a breakout. I just don't know. I think this guy is going to be fairly black and white, right? He's either going to be really good or he's going to be a huge bust. Where do you sit on Kadarius Toney moving forward?
Well, he's not Rondale Moore like A-Dot, so it's not like terrible, but it's he has actually the games that he exploded in last year. I mean, he absolutely exploded in. So you're not getting it. Somebody who believed in Toney from the get-go is not letting go of them right now, especially in Dynasty. You're gonna have to overpay to get him, and he's probably going somewhere around wide receiver 4. In the mid wide receiver 4 range, something like that. But he could easily be a high-end wide receiver 3, very easily. So I like him a lot. I'm not getting him anywhere because I'm not overpaying to get him for wide receivers that are a dime a dozen. But if I had him on my team, I'm not getting rid of him for anything less than the premium that somebody wants to pay for him or somebody will pay for him. I'll tell you that much.
My second less obvious pick here is going to be Kenny Walker. I don't know what we're calling him, Mr. Walker from the Seattle Seahawks. The running back is going to be my less obvious. And the only reason I feel like it's less obvious is number one, not too many people clamoring to take a shot at the Seattle offense with Drew Lock at the helm. Number two, there seems to be camps growing about the Seattle running back situation, whether it's you're the Rashod Penny guy because you look at Rashod Penny and you look at the PFF numbers, the analytics. Penny was incredible last season. The elusive rating was crazy. The breakaway rating was crazy. He was awesome down the stretch. I don't believe at all that Rashod Penny is going to stay healthy. Even a little bit. I don't buy it. What we've seen in his career, the guy is constantly banged up. And Kenneth Walker he's the guy. 12 games last season, 5 of those games in college, he had over 25 touches. He had more than 20 touches in 10. He scored touchdowns in 9 of 12 games. He led the country in yards after contact, missed tackles forced, breakaway yards. He was number 2 in breakaway yard percentage. So, just breaking those tackles and sprinting towards the end zone. This is what he does. And I know that there's a lot of concern about Kenneth Walker on the receiving end, right? I think he had 18 total catches in his collegiate career. He only had 13 catches on 16 targets last year. But I will submit that his average depth of target was behind the line. It was negative 2 yards, which it's not something you want to see. But his yards per reception was 6.8. So he's getting almost 10 yards of reception. So if you sneak him out, you get him a catch near the line, he's almost getting you a first down every single time. Obviously, the level of competition is very different. But I just think with Drew Lock at the helm, you need to run the ball more. The Seattle Seahawks were dead last in the league last year in time of possession. How do you counteract that? You run the ball. So you can run Penny and Walker. You keep that terrible defense on the sideline. So when they have to come out, at least they have energy. At least they're not completely gassed from being the defense that's on the field more than any other defense in the NFL. And you run the ball first, which makes me a little concerned about, Metcalf and Lockett overall, because I do think we're going to see a two-headed monster. I just think that there's no doubt in my mind that Kenneth Walker is going to usurp Rashod Penny very early, if not week 1. So I know I've kind of beat Kenny Walker into the ground here over the last couple episodes, Fitz, but your thoughts?
Greek chorus here, Boggs. I mean, I totally agree. I only wish that he was as inexpensive in Dynasty as he is in redraft, because he's really cheap in redraft right now. And, not so much in Dynasty where he was, typically the 102 or 103 in rookie drafts. So totally agree. It will be interesting to see what happens if Penny does somehow stay healthy. Like, will Walker eventually overtake him on the merits? Like, I think that could certainly happen. So totally agree with you. I'm very bullish.
John, what do you think of Walker? Are you team Walker, you team Penny, or team stay away from Seattle?
Well, I think Geno Smith is going to, you said Drew Lock before, but I think Geno Smith is going to start the season as a quarterback. So that's
bad
one thing
way.
That might change. It is very bad either way. It's good for the running game, and I think Penny's going to get the first crack at this offensive backfield. But again, like you guys, I'm just going to echo what you guys said. I think Kenneth Walker is just going to run over Rashod Penny and just take this job halfway through the season and not look back. it is a situation where Ken Walker is just a much better version of a running back in the NFL. I mean, he's going to get probably 250 carries this year. He's not a pass catcher, but if you're looking at someone who is going to just run the ball, he's going to get all the goal line carries. He's going to get everything. And he's going to be three rushes in a cloud of dirt the entire season because they don't have without a passing game. They're going to have to work through the run and defense, and they don't have much of a defense anymore. But he will get all the early down carries.
Yeah, I'm so excited about Walker. I'm snapping him up everywhere I possibly can. Let's do the last deep shots, and let's do these two at a time here. So, John, you can start with your two, and then we'll go over them, and then we'll get Fitz two, and then my two to end it here. So give us your two deep shots. These are dart throws at the end of your draft. I mean, maybe you have a very deep draft and they wouldn't be dart throws, but for most leagues, these are going to be, I'm going to take these guys, I'm going to grab and stash them however you see it. Who are your two deep shots?
All right. Well, my first deep shot, you look at the Dallas Cowboys depth chart and remember that Amari Cooper is now in Cleveland. Cedric Wilson's in Miami. Michael Gallup towards ACL late in 2021. So he'll probably start the year in the pup. And this could possibly take even longer than the first 3 to 4 or 6 weeks for him to come back. So after CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz, Tolbert's next competition for targets is James Washington. So Jalen Tolbert is, he played all over the field and he's an absolute beast with a 51.2% college dominator rating. He had over 33% target share at South Alabama. Tolbert had 10 catches for 252 yards, 3 touchdowns once in the game. He's had 5 games with double-digit receptions in college. His senior year alone, Tolbert had 82 receptions for almost 1,500 yards and 8 touchdowns. He plays all over the field, and he couldn't have landed in a better spot than with the Cowboys, who run almost 68 offensive plays per game. So I'm absolutely pumped about Jalen Tolbert's rookie year and beyond. He could be a fantasy monster in year one, and he's a great deep shot. A player at 156 in FantasyPros consensus rankings, that's almost around 14. Go get my boy. In the startup because he's going to have an instantaneous opportunity at a wide receiver 2 situation. So my super deep shot, the Baltimore Ravens actually ran the most plays in the NFL last year. To talk about Dallas, but Baltimore ran the most, and they lost a huge part of the passing game when Hollywood Brown left for Arizona. That leaves Rashod Bateman and a wide open spot for number 2 receiver in this offense. I know that what you're thinking, the team has Lamar Jackson running the ball and has got J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards back, but the team that brought in Mike Davis and drafted Tyler Batty, it's a lot of running. It's a lot of carries for running backs. Well, they are also a team that averages about 380 pass attempts a year. That means that you take the 140 targets that Mark Andrews will probably get and 120 targets that Bateman will see, and that's 120 targets left over. And Lamar is not known for dumping the ball to his running backs. He hits the wide receivers. Proche had 300 receptions for about 4,000 yards and 40 touchdowns at MSU. This guy just smells like a year 3 breakout. If your league gives points for special teams, he also contributes on kickoff and punt returns. He has no injury history, and has already been rumored to be taking over the number 2 spot in this fast-paced Ravens offense. Proche ranked wide receiver 145 according to the latest expert consensus rankings at FantasyPros. You could wait till the middle of round 36 in your dynasty startup to get him. Mine only go 25 or 30.
Yeah, most don't have around 36. Right, yeah.
I'm grabbing Proche in my drafts and gambling on his getting 55 receptions, 600 yards, and 3 to 4 touchdowns, which who knows what his dynasty future holds if he exceeds those expectations.
Yeah, look, I like both these calls. I'm just completely biased, more of a Duvernay guy than a James Proche guy. Just, that's all biased. That's all Texas. So, but I've been talking up Jalen Tolbert, since before the draft. And, what you'll hear a lot of people say is, well, the NFL is way different than the Sun Belt. And that's what you hear from the college dominator and the target share and all that stuff.
I get it. Yeah.
I think that Tolbert is already a better wideout than Michael Gallup. And I was a Michael Gallup guy when he came into the NFL. So I am absolutely taking my last pick in most of my drafts is going to be Tolbert all over the place. So we are simpatico in that, John. Fitz, your thoughts on Tolbert and James Proche?
Yeah, Boggs, I can't steal your thunder on Tolbert. I know you were the big advocate, and I'm more agnostic on him, but I do love the situation for him and getting that extended runway with Gallup going to certain to miss time early in the season. So, they're definitely in need of a secondary wide receiver. So, who was John's
Proche.
first? Oh, Proche. There's been a lot of buzz about him in OTAs. I kind of thought Duvernay would be the leading candidate, but it seems like Proche is getting more buzz. So he's one to watch for sure in training camp.
So who are your 2 deep shots that you're taking, Fitzy? Who's it going to be?
All right, Bugs. I got to throw in a tight end, and I don't know if he's deep enough. Adam Trautman, like we've talked about him. He's not a guy who's getting passed over in dynasty startups. People are taking Trautman, of course. But I don't want Dalton Schultz. I want the next Dalton Schultz, and Trautman's a guy you can still get as a throw-in and a trade. And I like that he was a prolific producer in college, granted at a smaller program. He's from Dayton. He's Dayton's all-time leading pass catcher with 171 receptions. Final year, 70 catches, 916 yards, 14 touchdowns. Finished his career with 171 catches, as I mentioned, and 31 touchdowns. So a 97th percentile college dominator rating. And he goes in as the number 1 tight end in the Saints. I mean, we know Taysom Hill is also on the depth chart as a tight end, but that's going to be gadgety usage and not conventional tight end usage. So
it's also your gunner and potentially a returner and your backup quarterback. He's too many things.
So I just think there's an opening for Trautman to come through this year. I know he was, people loved him at the Senior Bowl, had that prolific college career. I think he's a good candidate. But if we want to go deeper, I was on a podcast with Leroy Butler, incoming Hall of Famer for the Green Bay Packers last weekend. And Leroy Butler was touting Tyler Davis, who's like the 4th string Packer, totally unrostered in all dynasty leagues. But Leroy is like Mr. Packer, and he knows, he has deep ties to that organization. And if he's talking about Tyler Davis, someone in the Packers organization likes Tyler Davis. So just wanted to throw that name out there. And my other guy, Boggs, is Khalil Shakir. He is to me what Jalen Tolbert is to you, just a guy I really embraced in this class. Just ultra competitive, coach's dream type. The guy who is going to give you, every last drop of effort, and was prolific at Boise State, 63 catches as a sophomore. 192 catches over his last 3 years on the Smurf turf. Short arms, but pretty good speed, 4.43, 82nd percentile burst score. Probably going to be used as a slot guy, but I think you mentioned, Boggs, that he could be used outside too.
Anywhere.
Yeah, and people are, and he's great after the catch, but people are kind of giving this role to Jamison Crowder. Isaiah McKenzie's there too, but he's tiny, man. And I just don't know. Are we sure Jamison Crowder is better right now than Khalil Shakir is? I wouldn't be surprised if Shakir made a big move and a big push for that job in training camp.
Yeah, I understand that for sure. Because it's a whole, yes, Jamison Crowder is the vet, but you draft Shakir for a reason. So you let these guys fight it out. I like McKenzie, but I don't think McKenzie is anywhere close to earning that role over either of those guys. John, your thoughts here on Trautman and Shakir. What do you think of those two? I think I
can't do a podcast without mentioning Jameis Winston. So that's just kind of my thing. He's my favorite guy in the NFL. So I think Jameis is going to use Adam Trautman in a special way. I love Adam Trautman. I love that pick. I love everything about it. And, your Shakir is another one I just drafted this year, as a decent flyer. He will be the player that to own over Isaiah McKenzie. I like McKenzie too, but that's just my love of some players that I think could have broken out. I think McKenzie has already shown what he is, and that's just going to open the door for Shakir. Those are both players. I love both of those picks. As a matter of fact, the Trautman pick was my favorite one of this entire show.
Yeah,
Ooh.
Trautman. I've been on the Trautman thing forever, as well as Fitz. We've talked about him multiple times in this show, so I don't need to gush anymore about Trautman than I already have. Shakir. The one thing that concerns me about Shakir is I do think that by the end of the year he is the slot guy moving forward for Buffalo, but Crowder is the vet, and it's hard for those young guys to win the job over the vet early. So I think Crowder will start with that role, but I think by the end of the year, Shakir is the guy there.
Yeah, and along that, they did kind of suppress the Gabriel Davis usage so they could play Emmanuel Sanders.
Right, and
clearly pretty
Beasley.
close to
Right.
yeah. So we've already kind of seen that from this organization a little bit. So you might be right about that.
Here are my two, and y'all can get ready to cringe here. My first one is Deontay Foreman. And last season, look, he tore his Achilles. He was with Houston. He tore his Achilles. Fell out of favor with the coaches there. Just it didn't add up. Last year, he's a free agent, hanging out. I think he might have started with the Colts and got cut, but he ended up in Tennessee after Derrick Henry got hurt. And he looked great at the end. He played in I think it was 10 games. And in the games that he had over 10 touches, he averaged 13.83 points per game. This is in PPR for a guy that he's not going to be known to catch the football. He's a big back. He's a north-south runner. So that would have been 13.83 points per game would have been good for RB23 last season. So a low-end RB2. Christian McCaffrey has had injury issues. Deontay Foreman obviously backing him up now. And Deontay Foreman just makes people miss, he's not shifty, but he'll run a dude over. He had more missed tackles forced than Cordell Patterson, Miles Sanders, Zeke, Saquon, CH, Darrell Henderson, Chase Edmonds, and many others that I'm just not putting on this roster. And he only played 10 games last year. So if Christian McCaffrey gets hurt, Deontay Foreman is your handcuff. So that's if you're rostering CMC, you need Foreman. I will just throw that out there just in any basic league. And, if they are serious about ratcheting back CMC's touches, all we need is 10 from Foreman a game. So for him to be somewhat viable here. So I'm excited about him. The other one is a real deep shot. Shout out to Debro for pointing this guy out. I've liked him a lot. I didn't like that he was at A&M. Liked him way more when he transferred over to Florida State, of course, as a Texas fan. But Jashaun Corbin, he's a undrafted free agent going to the New York Giants, who they're looking for anybody behind Barkley. Right now, the options are Matt Breida and Gary Brightwell and a couple other practice squad guys. So Corbin, he's a 4-star, top 10 running back recruit that went to A&M. He ended up at Florida State transferring, and he played behind some brutal offensive lines there and some rough quarterback play. His relative athletic score was firmly average, but his tangibles are good. Vision, pass catching ability. He has some special teams experience as well, returning kicks and punts. So I think Corbin makes this roster for the Giants. And, there's just potential there. Barkley has had some injury issues. We saw Devontae Booker put up some decent numbers for the Giants when Barkley went down. So I think just in terms of taking a flyer on a guy, there's worse options than Corbin out there, especially for UDFA. So that's my super deep shot. So Foreman and Corbin, what do you think of those two, Fitz?
Yeah, I'll have to watch the Giants preseason on Corbin because I'm not very familiar with him at all. But it will be, he's going to get a guy who's going to get some run in those first couple of preseason games. So I'll save my judgment for then. And who is your other guy, Boggs?
Foreman, Deontay Foreman.
Focusing. Oh, Deontay Foreman. Of course, your Texas homerism. Yeah, putting that aside, it's nice to see him. It's nice to see him get his day in the sun after that Achilles injury, which, it's been a career wrecker for so many running backs, but maybe not anymore. He came back from it. Cam Akers came back from it. Like you said, he's not going to catch many passes. So maybe there is a certain ceiling for him in Dynasty where everything's PPR. But I agree, man. If you've got CMC, you've got to go out and get this guy because he is a pretty clear handcuff, I think.
Well, what do you think of those two, John? The deep shots here of Foreman and Corbin.
What happened to Chuba Hubbard?
Well, Chuba Hubbard last year showed how good he is, and it's not Barry.
I still like Chuba Hubbard a little bit more than Deonta Foreman, but that's just me. You know, we all can agree on the show. You guys, it is what it is.
Sure.
But Foreman's a talented back. As a matter of fact, I've seen him ranked over Hubbard in a lot of places. So it is what it is. My homerism and what happens in real life sometimes are completely different. So, but your Corbin call, I think it's great. Like you said, Debo, I heard that episode. I love everything you guys put out of Fantasy Pros, but I listened to Corbin is someone who I tried to get deep. I got sniped in the last round picking up Corbin. He is someone that I think if something happened to Barkley, I think he's next in line for the running back position. And Barkley has not been the healthiest of running backs the last couple of years, as we all know. And if that offense goes to the running game, it's Josh Corbin could be a humongous late round pick. So that's a great call.
Thank you. Yeah. And like I said, shout out to Debro. We were pointing, Jerry and Ely, I wanted to put on this list. Justin Ross, who a lot of people love, obviously has some medical stuff. We want to put on this list. There are, John and I talked before the show, and I'm sure Fitz was right there too. I switched my deep shot guys like 6 times. I changed both of them multiple times to say, okay, I talk myself in and out of many players here. But those are the 2 I settled on. And yes, there is Texas homerism in there, of course. But I mean, first rule of fantasy is you're having fun, right? I mean, come on, you play to enjoy it. And I like watching players that I enjoy watching play. So Foreman, of course, has to be on this list for me. I'm an unapologetic, Foreman supporter for sure. But that is going to wrap it up for the show today. Remember, you can catch John at John McGlynn 75. John, what is coming up for you here in the summer, my friend?
I'm just about done finishing up my commissioner evaluation series on part 7 of 8. Right, I'm in part 8 of 8 right now coming up. So that's about it. But my commission evaluation series, I had Pat on there a couple weeks ago. He put on the cheesehead hat for us all. It was a great show. he made me laugh more than any of the other shows. But, we do that. It's a year-round show. In the off season, we talk about anything commissioner stuff, anything that's fun to do in the off season. And during the season, I like to do some interviews, some awesome people. Talk lineups, waivers, injuries. At the end of every show, we evaluate a team, send it by a listener to do our best to try and help them improve their team from a dynasty point of view. And it's just my hobby. It's what I enjoy doing. And, I just listen to awesome people like yourself and, makes my life easier, makes me more knowledgeable. And you guys, thank you so much for having me on the show today. It meant a real lot for me to be part of this Fantasy Pros team for a day.
Of course. You're great. It was a lot of fun. At Fitz_FF for Fitzy. What do you have coming up this week, Fitz?
Yeah. Well, first I got to say, John is the best. And I was too lazy after that episode to actually put the cheese head back where it belongs. So it's right.
Why don't you go ahead and throw that on for us? Yep. Thank you. Appreciate
Here beside me. So, yeah. And I'll just go out like this with my dignity. So, yeah, we've still cranking out summer draft content at Fantasy Pros. We've got our redraft kit that everyone's going to want to check out if they play in redraft. And we are still putting out dynasty stuff too. So people can follow me at Fitz_FF and also check out the Fitz on Fantasy podcast.
For me, obviously you can check me out here. I'm not doing leading off anymore. Don't have to do that. I will fill in on occasion, but I'm not going to be on there as I am usually on Tuesdays. Please check out our Discord where I am on there doing stages every single Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern for about an hour. I did about 2 hours last night because I missed the week before because of July 4th and all that good stuff. So that was fun talking to the listeners, answering dynasty questions, I'm not even answering so many questions. It's more confirming, like I did this trade. Do you like it? It's a lot of that. Just, yeah, I like it, or nah, I don't like it. I have, occasionally people say they did a trade or they offered a trade. I'm like, come on, there's no way that's getting accepted. That's a trash offer, So we're just there to help you. That's pretty much what we're there for. So please check that out. And it's a lot of fun over there every single Monday night. And the Welsh and I are doing 2 hours of, streaming content every Monday through Thursday, moving forward from 1 to 3 Eastern. So first hours on our Twitch, second hours on our Patreon. So inthisleague.com to check out that. And of course, I have this show and all my ITL content, CFP Winning Edge, ITL CFF, IDP with Gary Davenport, all kinds of stuff for you. If you want to hear my voice, it's out there. Just check out @Bogman Sports and you'll be able to find us. So that is going to wrap it up for this week. We will see you guys next week. Take it easy, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. Don't forget to check out our featured videos. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter @FantasyPros, so you can get the latest news and updates to give you the edge you need in your fantasy league.